if everyone go ahead and start taking their seats. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone to the inaugural Genius Project Symposium at Sage Creek High School.
Okay, girl, you still good. Walked in this party and these girls looking at me. Skinny jeans on and you know my head nappy. Hey, okay. I want y'all to do this dance now. Juju on that beat. Juju on that beat. Juju on that beat. Now slide, chop, hit them for no stop, ayy. Don't stop, ayy. Don't stop, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat. Now do your dance, ayy. You ugly, you your daddy's son, ayy. Do your dance, ayy. Go crazy, ayy. Get freaky, ayy. Let's go. Let go. Hey. Okay, we looking and bucking and ready to fight. I got my cousin, he with me and got Lizzie on the right. And I'm a Detroit baby and I don't know nothing else besides drinking and having parties and having some fun. I say, look in the mirror, what you expect me to do? I see a 300S and got the blacked out rim. I mean, I like your style, I'm on a whole nother level. If you compare me and you, there wouldn't be no comparison. Juju on that beat, Juju on that beat, Juju on that beat. Now slide, chop, hit them for no stop, ayy. Don't stop, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat, ayy. Run a man on that beat. Now do your dance, ayy. You ugly, you your daddy's son. Juju on that beat.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first annual Sage Creek Genius Project Symposium.
I'm Drake Benner, and by my side tonight is my co-host, Bryce Busher.
Yes, thank you all for having us tonight. We are both very appreciative of our roles in tonight's celebration.
And we're very happy to be in front of such a welcoming crowd tonight. Let's give yourselves a hand. Come on, is that it? Oh yeah, that's better. Now we have a lot to cover tonight, but we have a lot to cover tonight, don't we?
Lots of great students with great ideas is what I hope you're talking about, Drake.
I sure am. And speaking of great students, how about Jessica, Shauna, and their dance team?
Yes, let's give them another hand for their wonderful performance.
Now Shauna and Jessica formed a dance team of young students with special needs for their Genius Project. They pushed their students to go beyond their threshold, and at the same time, the two girls found out that they could touch more lives than they could have ever imagined.
Challenging yourself and showing off what you're capable of. Now that's what the Genius Project is all about. But you know what, Drake?
What is it?
I don't think I'd be capable of getting up here and dancing.
Oh, no way.
And you know who else wouldn't?
Who?
Old-timer Mr. Morales.
Oh!
Could you picture his old bones up on this stage?
No, Mr. Morales, we're just playing. We know all those gray hairs are from putting your heart and soul into making Sage Creek just a wonderful place. Give him a hand.
Now, we just like to give a shout out to some of our special guests in the building tonight.
I know we have our superintendent, Dr. Churchill, in the house. Where are you, Doc? There you are. Give him a hand.
We have our Carlsbad Educational Foundation CEO and board members.
Where you at? We also have our Sage Creek Foundation board members. And we know in the building we have our Carlsbad Unified board members as well.
all along with our wonderful Sage Creek students, parents, and staff that made all this possible.
We couldn't have done it without them.
Now, about a year ago, each student in our class of 2017 embarked on a journey. They pursued a project invoking their passions, challenging themselves to push their boundaries, and leaving a lasting impact on the community.
Now, I myself and my buddy Bryce here, and the rest of our 2017 class, all were given the same guidelines before we were let loose.
And as you can imagine, projects took a wide variety of forms, ranging from things like the study of rocks and bugs to creating an original video game.
Now, if you haven't found out yet, our theme tonight is connected. You saw it as you walked in, and you can see there that all of our seniors are represented with their individual TED Talks. You'll see it again as our presenters today come up on the stage and present to you.
This evening connects all our individual and shared experiences over the past few years, and we hope that this experience tonight connects us all in the future.
And here tonight, after a year's worth of work, we've narrowed down a school full of amazing genius presenters to just the top 8. Now keep in mind though, you'll be voting for one of these 8 to win a scholarship with money at the end, and we'll announce them at the end of the night. But keep that in mind who your favorite speaker is tonight.
And now, leading us off tonight, we have a young scholar with a very interesting project, to say the least.
She's put herself in situations most of us would try to avoid. But hey, she found some inspiration out of it.
So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our lovely first presenter, Miss Sade Young.
San Diego, California, home of the country's most unique architecture, beachfront views, and sunny skies. We view this city as the postcard model for what California is like. But what lies behind it all? Behind the same building resides a small civilization of homeless individuals working together as a community to help one another. This part of town is never shown in the travel brochures. Around the city, you can find construction sites for new infrastructure, but have people struggling to make a living just down the street. How is it that we can constantly fund to expand our city before helping our fellow man? With that, I decided to create a piece on the issue of homelessness in America. The project reflects on the irony of living in a town as progressive as San Diego, but plagued with ignorance towards this large community. Homeless individuals are treated as a completely different species and speculated instead of helped. The population of poverty in this country is only increasing, and in order to assess it, we need to be able to fully understand it first. I took that position as an artist to help raise awareness and inform individuals on how they can contribute to solving the problem. Given my interest in film and photography, I have a natural desire to capture stories. I decided to interview and take photographs of homeless individuals to paint a better picture of how they're seen in society. I also incorporated this concept of color psychology into my project. My belief is that every individual resonates with a certain color that is reflective of their personality and aura. For example, my color is red because it symbolizes passion, determination, and leadership. These qualities reside in me so vividly because of past experience. Growing up, I was surrounded by people who were extensively unhappy with themselves and their lifestyles, causing me to fear that predicament for myself. In order to overcome these concerns, I have learned to become more positive and ambitious with my interests. The mere question of what is your color can evoke so many emotions and thoughts, which is so fascinating to me. When drafting this project, I wanted to avoid mediocrity and ensure that the people I study feel as comfortable as possible. To make sure that I have created a conversation, not an interrogation. In psychology, we learn about cognitive therapy. This study states that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all connected, meaning that the only way to overcome adversity is to change your overall thought process. I wanted to promote a sense of self-actualization to these individuals, to hear their story and give them positive reinforcement, encouraging them to be hopeful regardless of their situation. The project is titled Live in Color because it showcases the colorful complexities of the human condition. With the resources from the photography department here at school, I was able to check out equipment and set up my own studio at a local homeless shelter. Bread of Life is an organization in Oceanside which caters to people in need who have sworn to taking sobriety in return for help. Now, initially I was scared because I thought that nobody would be interested in taking part of my project. Having your picture taken and being psychoanalyzed by some random girl isn't something that people would normally be compliant to do. But surprisingly, a lot of individuals volunteered. It was so fascinating to hear everyone's stories and gain further introspection on the topic. The people I talked to became so comfortable with me, and I could tell that this was probably the first time someone has ever really stopped to listen to them and what they had to say. On top of this, I went downtown to take some more photographs of the city area. I saw so much color in a lot of the areas I photographed, which reflected a lot on the interviews that I did. We see vivid contrasts of blue in the city. Blue represents community, imagination, and peacefulness. I saw those same traits in the eyes of the people I talked to, all of them being able to overcome adversity by working together and making the most of the resources they have. After compiling all of my work together, I decided to put it all in a magazine. But then I realized I was too broke to actually print a magazine, so instead I decided to put it all on a website, which is actually a better way to get the word out to a wider audience. It was also really good for me personally because it allowed me to create a website to brand my visual art. If you visit SadeIndia.com and go to the tab Live in Color, you can read all about the project. This contains the individual case studies I did, photographs, and a few words from me about bettering the community. You can also learn about the psychology of your own personal color. Amongst that, I am also selling a poster to help raise money for Bread of Life, which is the organization that allowed me to use their facilities. The poster contains a photograph taken by me and the words Live in Color in bold at the bottom to help raise awareness to the cause. This project has really allowed me to come to terms with my passion of influencing social change with art. I believe that art has the potential to solve or even just bring discussion to the issues that reside in our world. It is important that we, as a society, inform ourselves on things beyond our own personal exposure and work to help one another. To not just speculate and make assumptions, but to stand up and contribute to society in a way that actually makes a physical change. As Henry David Thoreau, an American philosopher, once said, "It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. Well, how about that? A great story and a great cause. And a great first start, am I right? Oh, yeah. Now, I love seeing my fellow students get involved and make a difference in the world. And speaking about making a difference, let's talk about our next presenter. He's a track star, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of his speedy times before you heard of his Genius Project idea. Now, his name's Bo Prince, and I'd like you to give him a warm welcome tonight. Bo Prince.
Yay! Technical difficulties. All right. Oh, okay. Okay. So I am not the most creative person. So to me, it's really cool to see a bunch of these other projects that are really creative and interesting and really well put together. Given my own creativity setbacks, I knew I couldn't make my project about making something really cool. See, I'm not very good with my hands, so when I had ideas like build a guitar or telescope, I knew it'd be a bit of a stretch to be optimistic about how they'd turn out. So for me, instead, I focus on a different aspect of the project, particularly the contribution to society. Contributing in some way is really what my project's been all about. Now, as I mentioned, when I first started thinking about this project last year, my mind immediately jumped to something in line with my hobbies. So I thought I could build a guitar. That would be really cool. Then I thought I could build a telescope. That would be really cool. But then I had to think, what really is the point of building a guitar or telescope? Might be really cool for me, yeah, but there didn't seem to be too much substance to those ideas. And I couldn't really expect them to turn out all that great, and that's not a whole lot of fun. So instead, I decided to switch and focus on something that I knew I could really sink my teeth into, and I would really enjoy, but at the same time would impact more lives than just my own. So I decided to make a track meet. That might make absolutely no sense if you don't know me, so here's a brief bit of background. I like to run probably a bit too much, and springtime is track season. So when I was thinking about this project last year, I was about a month or so deep in my own track season, and at that point, running is completely my life. So it was really inevitable that I incorporate it somehow into my Genius project. Now, setting on track meet right off the bat prompted several decisions. The first of which was really easy. I didn't want to have to run in the track meet I was hosting, so I decided to make it a track meet for the local middle schools. We have a really great track here, and obviously we can't use it all the time. And I know that the middle schoolers don't get to run, or compete, I should say, nearly as often as we do in high school. And I don't really like that. As a runner and a self-proclaimed ambassador of the sport, I like to think that competition is kind of something these athletes are entitled to. So really, I felt like a track meet is something that I really should do for these kids. Assuming they like track, and I assume they do because they're on a track team, the more meets they have, the better they do, and the more fun they have. And those are both really, really good things that I figured would be a nice contribution. So by mid-spring, I had my idea. And then, sure enough, rather predictably, I did some really great procrastination. For a pretty sizable chunk of time, I didn't do a whole lot of concrete work. I did what I guess is the next best thing. I thought about it a little bit. But I justify this procrastination in that spring is for track, right? And coaches don't, at the middle school level at least, coaches don't start making their schedule normally until the winter leading up to that spring. So I figured if I had a meet ready to go logistically and everything in the summer or the fall or even the early winter, it'd just kind of be a waste of my time because no coach would sign up for it. So I did what I figured was the rational thing, and I didn't do a whole lot. I did do a few things. I added a partner to my project, Gus Escobosa. He was a big help. And then I looked around a little bit, and I found that the coach at Aviara is the dad of one of my cross-country teammates, Danny. It's Mr. Scott Rubin. And then the coaches at Calavera are two friends and classmates of mine, Keegan and Claire. So I had these conveniences kind of lining up perfectly for me, just sort of begging me to get on my way. And sure enough, about a month and a half too late, I did just that. I got started. One of the first things I had to decide was what kind of meet I would have. I decided ultimately to have a cluster-style meet. Oh, please note, there's more than one kind of meet. I decided on a cluster-style meet, which is the three Carlsbad schools, Valley, Calavera, and Aviara. This is opposed to an invitational-style meet, in which I have just about every school ever, and they all send their best few athletes in each event, and that makes it a really fast meet and everything, but at the same time, that would be restrictive. So not everyone would get to compete as many times as they wanted. What I liked about the cluster is that each person on each team would be able to compete pretty much without restrictions, and I figured that'd be a good thing to incorporate at a middle school meet, especially because they're just now kind of discovering what they like in track and everything. And after that, sailing was pretty smooth. Once I figured that out, I didn't really have, well, I had things to do, I just wasn't really doing them too quickly. I would send an email here and there. I'd send a text when I had time. But really, looking back on it, things were really easy. And of course, I was telling myself this entire time that I was working so hard and I was just killing my project, but I was probably getting pretty far behind. But pretty soon, sure enough, I had a date set up, April 22nd. That's when I would host my meet. And once I had that date, I could start thinking about more logistical things, right? But then, of course, predictably, things went downhill from there. So I submitted my request to reserve the track in mid-February. I thought I had thought it out. I'm pretty sure I had thought it out. But I get that same form back from the office 3 weeks later, finding out that I actually hadn't thought about anything. So I had to figure out a few things. These you would think would be minor details, but apparently they're not. Like, nope, that's a Saturday, by the way. So I'd have to figure out how to open up the school, how I'd open up the parking lots also, and the bathrooms, because apparently people need those. And then down to things like taking out the trash and cleaning up. So I had a lot to think about, and obviously that was pretty daunting. But I did figure that out, and I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. And I got all that sorted out, resubmitted my form, and then all was well for a little bit. And then I find out that there's absolutely no physical possible way to have my meet on April 22nd. Because those lovely men in hard hats decided that the best week to start construction would be the week right before my meet. So, oh, by the way, I'm not blaming them, but I am just a little bit bitter still. So in a scramble to find another date, 11 days just disappeared magically, and I had to move it up to April 11th. April 11th is a perfectly fine day. It just made my life a little bit harder. Not for too long. I think that ultimately having to move my meet up to April 11th made me really move much more efficiently and make me get moving on my meet much more so than I had been doing previously. So I think it might have even been a good thing. Now, obviously, I've been going on for a while. I should get on to how my meet went and everything. Well, actually, there's a funny thing about that. I can tell you, but I can't really show you because we forgot to take pictures. That's actually the only one I have. So I can tell you, though, that my meet I thought was a really, really great experience. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun planning it and running it and everything. And it wasn't just fun. We actually did a pretty good job. We ran really efficiently. We ran ahead of schedule, which is really, really hard to do for a track meet. No hiccups or anything. No one really got injured. And I think all the kids had a lot of fun. And Coach Ruben at Aviara even told me afterwards that some parents were telling him it was one of the best run meets they'd been to. And so obviously that was really fantastic to hear and made me super proud. But at the same time, that's not really why I think my meet was a success. See, for me, the most important thing about my meet was having those 200 kids, or 200 or so kids, get there and compete, run and jump and throw to their heart's content. And because they were able to do that, and they were able to do that pretty well, I think that's what made my meet successful. That's why I thought it was a success. Now, I want to kind of use that as an example. Keep that in mind for a little bit, but then think about something else. Think about, in a really general sense, what contributes to society. I came up with a few things, like ideas or innovations or creations. But then who comes up with those? Is it the artists, the thinkers, or those with the biggest hearts? Right, like an Einstein or a Picasso, a Mother Teresa, someone like that. Well, I assure you, I am no way, shape, or form comparable to any of those people. But at the same time, I was able to make a contribution kind of remotely in a similar way to them. And from what I've seen in my own project and seen in everyone else's project is that it's actually not that difficult in the grand scheme of things for everyone to make their own little contribution. Now, I don't really want to be lame or cliche, so I'm not going to talk about making a difference. That's kind of what I'm getting at, but not quite. See, I like to think of these contribution things as sort of an additive. So every little contribution that someone makes, it adds up to what we know as the good in society. So think, for example, I made a bunch of little kids run around in circles and jump over stuff. That's not groundbreaking or revolutionary in any way, but it's a humble contribution from someone who hasn't made any history. And when there are literally billions of people on this earth that can do almost the same thing and make their own little contribution, and they can do it time and time and again, you end up with a really enormous potential to make the world a very good place. Thank you.
What a great job by Bo, one of our school's most intellectual and athletic stars. I definitely look forward to seeing what the future has in store for him. Next up, we have a girl that took this project to the next level, tapping into her passion for science and creating an outstanding result. Let's give it up for Juliet Zuck.
Most of us have at least once used a plastic bag. These plastic bags end up in the ocean, where they never really decompose. These pollutants are harmful to animals and degrade our waters. In short, plastic pollution is a major problem. Some have chosen to regulate or ban the use of plastic bags in grocery stores, while others make bags out of a biodegradable or reusable material. But there needs to be a new change or a new idea. For instance, I decided to make bags out of kelp, or seaweed. The main idea is that the bags are free to end up wherever they want, especially the ocean, where the kelp already resides. The process of creating a new idea, more or less an invention, is not an easy one. You're essentially bringing something new into the world, a brainchild, and since it has never been there yet, a multitude of things can go wrong. My experience was typical of an enthusiastic inventor. Stage 1. An idea is never yours unless you know no one has done it yet. After research, I found that people have made a variety of things out of seaweed, including my mentor, Juliet. She lives in London, where she has made sculptures, lamps, and pieces of clothing out of seaweed. I found a great deal of things, yet no one had made seaweed bags. Stage 2. Everything went impeccably in the beginning. I was doing a ton of research and finding answers. The seaweed looked flawless. I happened to be visiting London at the perfect time to meet up with my mentor, and I was having fun experimenting to extract glycerin from vegetable oil, the substance I used to preserve the seaweed, in the chemistry lab. Stage 3. However, after the first month or two, I had multiple blunders and started to see how my creation was not being well introduced into the world. My idea was not as clever and conceivable as I thought it was. The first instance of the world trying to hint at me that I should stop trying happened on my way to meet my mentor in London. As I was rushing out the door, I quickly stuffed a few pieces of kelp into my suitcase. I was only really thinking about where we were going, so I was surprised when I was stopped at airport security. We were all alarmed because we didn't know why, and I ended up being pulled into a separate room to get the full pat down. Turns out, upon conference with my mentor the next day, that this same thing has happened to her more than once. I had on my hand some glycerin residue from packing the strips last minute, and apparently it is used in high concentration in balms. The second warning from the world came after coming home and lifting the paper towels off of my hand-stitched work on the kelp to find mold. Honestly, with the slimy and damp aspect of seaweed, I can't believe I didn't see that one coming. And finally, the way I was stitching the strips together was not working, and so basically everything I had already done was ripping. This is the point in which the inventor decides that their invention was never in existence because it never should have been in existence. The world doesn't like it, and that's why it can't be created. This is also the point where no one should ever stop. It may seem, as it did for me, like you're just making things worse by building this thing. For the longest time, I thought I liked kelp and that it wasn't that bad. I told myself, you could deal with the smell. But for the longest time after that, I became repulsed by it. Stage 4. Time to continue on. I thought back to meeting my mentor in London. We met up at Central St. Martin's Design School, where the college students were setting up displays for their senior projects. Before the main conversation, Juliet showed me each project with its combination of science, art, satire, and activism. These projects were so fascinating and thought-provoking that they motivated me to resume with mine. I therefore started to experiment with ways to protect the kelp from mold and relayed my findings to my mentor. I enlisted the help of others and learned that I needed to be more meticulous. My dad helped deal with the mold, Sean Cook told me to put salt on the outside of the kelp, and Miss Mo suggested a sewing machine. The salt worked, the reason being that the outside stays dry, while the inside of the kelp stays just the way you want it. I essentially used way too much salt because I was scarred from the mold and paranoid towards anything wet. This progressive idea was the answer to my problems, although it did lead to many laborious nights with my dad scraping salt off of the kelp. Stage 5. Okay. I was in the home stretch, but I was honestly just exhausted with it all. The kelp was different, but still malleable, so I basically had to accept a few things in order to finish. The bag still has salt on the outside that comes off on your hands a little. I'm not too good at sewing, so there are a few rips, and it can't really carry anything too heavy. For example, light boxes of cereal. All of this to get what you see here. It's not a very nice clean-cut product, but that's usually what you get the first time around with creating something. Stage 6. I start to think of different prototypes. What I have here today is acceptable, but it's not the best it can be, so I'm learning to be optimistic about the future. I could try to find larger sheets of kelp so I don't have to sew as much. I could definitely use less salt, and I could try to incorporate other organic materials to help with the structural integrity. With this large database of improvement ideas, I am more confident that I can continue this project in the future. Altogether, I knew that I wanted to construct something and to try to incorporate chemistry. Through my experience, I found that I have a love-hate relationship with the design process, but ultimately I enjoy the hard work and research that goes into putting together something. The challenge didn't necessarily change. I knew that developing something new would be difficult. I just didn't know how many things would go wrong. But the most important part of all of this is my realization in my project's change and impact. I went into this a little overambitious, as all young creators do. I thought I was going to be mass producing these bags and possibly have people using them. I was going to sell them to get some revenue that I would then donate to ocean cleanup charities. Clearly, this didn't happen, and the only real impact that my project has had on others is stench, irritation, and airport investigation. But I realize now the actual impact of my project is having my idea out there to inspire others to innovate in any way possible. Similar to the way that those projects in London influenced me. Such inspiration is something that happens with inventing things. The thought comes about when you see what others have created. The thought that you can be original too and can generate something with your own hands. Innovation can be complicated and scary, but the key is to stay perseverant in the process. This is also true for things other than innovating and making things. Perseverance is a universal trait that everyone needs to employ. With any challenge, whether it be school, a job, or self-actualization, stay determined and always look forward. Thank you.
Very nice, Julie, very nice. You know, I remember when Julia's idea was just that, an idea. The progress she's made has truly wowed me. And the wowing will continue tonight. Our next presenter will blow you away. She has a compelling story, and I want you guys all to listen clearly to what she has to say. Please give me and join me in welcoming Miss Callie Ball.
In one of Israel Kamakwikuwole's famous songs, he lyricized, "Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I'll think to myself, what a wonderful world." In 2015, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reported that 1 in 5 teen drivers involved in fatal accidents had alcohol in their system, and an average 81% of these drivers had blood alcohol contents higher than the legal limit for adults. Not only that, but out of an average of 33,500 deaths in traffic accidents each year, 10,076 of these drivers had an illegal BAC. On May 20th, 2015, Ryan Lenozga became part of that 10,076. It was graduation season in Colorado Springs, and the goodbye parties were already in full bloom. On that fateful Wednesday night of May 20th, Ryan made the decision to get a ride home from someone previously partaking in graduation festivities, including drinking and the use of drugs. All it took was 2 minutes. 2 minutes behind the wheel and a sharp corner for the driver to lose absolute control and roll the SUV onto a nearby rock. Due to an error of bad judgment, Ryan forewent the decision to wear a seatbelt, and his body was ejected and eventually became stuck under that SUV. He was killed upon impact. However, Ryan is more than a statistic. He was 16 years old, a star football player, an honor roll student, a son, a brother, and one of my best friends. I founded WADS for Ryan because the world deserves to know that. My CrossFit journey began in January of 2015 at a hometown box in Colorado called CrossFit Endemic. I was in the midst of ending a 9-year all-star cheerleading career, and 3 months into training started showing early signs of borderline personality disorder and an anxiety disorder. I immediately found comfort in showing up to the gym at 7 in the morning and staying until 1 in the afternoon, but then coming back 3 hours later and staying until closing time at 8. In the heart of lifting weights nearly twice my size and running sub 5-minute miles, it became apparent to me that training my body to be physically strong no longer seemed arduous for me. In the span of 2 years, I accustomed myself to compete alongside elite athletes and max out lifts heavier than every adult working alongside me, all at just the age of 17. However, despite all of this, there was one thing CrossFit taught me that no one has ever been able to, and that is the power of mental strength. After Ryan's death, not only myself, but the entire community basically fell apart. While others found comfort in more parties or traveling or being surrounded by loved ones, I found relief in my box. I fell in love again, but this time with PRing my clean and jerk, or ripping my hands open after muscle-ups, or sweating out my body weight. It was then that I realized if it wasn't for CrossFit, I probably wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for the constant desire to push my limits as far as they could go, and the consistent determination to beat my yesterday self, I am almost certain that I would not be standing here right now. I wanted to use that drive to make a difference in this community. I was introduced to the Genius Project in April of 2016, around the middle of my junior year, and to be honest, I have not stopped working on this dang thing since that day. We were asked what it was that made us want to make a difference or impact the community. What was it that made us want to wake up at the break of dawn but not want to go to bed until we knew we had achieved it? What was our passion? But how could my love for lifting weights make a difference? 17 million teenagers in the world, and we were asked to be the ones to make a difference. But suddenly, out of nowhere, but seemingly all at once, the image of my best friend came into my mind, and that's when WADS for Ryan was born. I wanted to turn my grief into a life-changing experience for somebody else. I contacted the most recognized face of CrossFit headquarters and director of the Reebok CrossFit Games, Dave Castro, to be my mentor. Although he accepted, shortly after, he became MIA and started ignoring my phone calls and emails. I envisioned this competition to be held here at Sage Creek on May 20th of 2017 and allow students to compete for free. However, WODs for Ryan will now be held on July 22nd and include 3 high-intensity workouts accompanied by a floater strength portion. I came to the decision to contact Rogue, the largest manufacturer of strength and conditioning equipment, for a sponsorship, and to my surprise, they accepted and even offered to send out volunteers if I needed. It was clear to me that this was going to be an absolute success. That was until September 21st, 2016, when Lacey Starbeck became part of the 10,076 when she was killed upon impact in a head-on collision with a drunk driver. Lacey had just graduated high school the year before, and she was on track to attending college. Not only that, but she was one of my closest friends from back home. Hardly a week later, I was the victim of a hit-and-run accident with a drunk driver that left me with a totaled car and a concussion due to my airbags failing to deploy and causing my head to be slammed into the steering wheel. It got to the point where my car could barely run, and the boundless weight from mourning my friends was nearly immeasurable to the weights that I thought I could comfort myself in. But in that pain is when I found my passion. I wanted to stand up for those 1 in 5 that no longer may have had a voice. However, at the beginning of this year, I lost my sponsorship from Rogue. Not only did I lose thousands of dollars worth of equipment and volunteers, but everything I desperately needed to fund WODs for Ryan was just gone. Shortly after, at a meeting with school officials, I was directed towards not holding the competition on school grounds due to liability and the possibility of even more funding from me. At this point, I was near calling it quits because after time and time again of trying, the universe just kept telling me no. But the universe wasn't giving up just yet. Around the end of January, I teamed up with a company called Bonfire, and they gave me the opportunity to sell specially made WODs for Ryan shirts and split the profits in half with me. Almost immediately after the website went live, I had mass amounts of people asking for them and offering their support. And within 24 hours, I had exceeded my goal of production and raised nearly $300. However, also after the site went live, I had lawyers contacting me, threatening to take legal action against me if I continued to advertise and profit from WODs for Ryan being a CrossFit competition. At this point, all I could see was rock bottom for me. I wanted to leave everything behind. I wanted to shut down the site. I wanted to pay everyone their money back. I wanted to throw in the towel and just give up. It wasn't until around the 6th time of calling my mom in absolute tears that she told me, "Look down. He'll always believe in you, Callie. Just don't let him down." One of my favorite quotes is, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire." I had lawyers breathing down my neck. I had affiliate owners telling me I'm too young and naive. I had peers telling me this epidemic of drunk driving isn't even real. And yet every day I woke up and continued this journey because this is not a school project for me. This is what I found to be my passion. Passion is what wakes you up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when everyone else just went to bed from the night before, and what gets you to your 5:30 training sessions before school some days. Passion is what keeps you up until midnight, weighing out every single ounce of chicken and every gram of casein for the next day, and suffering through 2 cups of broccoli for breakfast every morning. Passion is what drives you to borderline stalk a grown man just so he will answer your phone calls and emails. Passion is what drives you to finish something you love when everyone around you is telling you it's impossible. And that's what the Genius Project is all about. If you take 3 things away from this talk, I hope that it's this. 1, never underestimate the power of a girl with a broken heart. 2, never be ashamed of sharing your story. And 3, the overarching power of passion can cause anybody, no matter what age, to cause a wave of change in this world. All it takes is a little grit, devotion, and a whole lot of heart. Since embarking on this adventure, not only have I learned what it genuinely means to fight for what you believe in, but that people are so unaware of this epidemic among us. From 2003 to 2012, 1,700 people died as a result of drunk driving in Colorado alone, and that number has only grown in the last 4.5 years. Every single day, 28 people die as a result of drunk driving. I want to make that number 0. I don't want anybody else to wake up to that phone call at 4 in the morning saying they're never going to see their best friend or their son or their daughter or maybe even their parents ever again. And the only way for that to happen is for the world to accept that this upsurge is real and needs to be stopped. I founded WADS for Ryan to show the world that my best friend is more than a statistic, and it has since inspired me to launch other projects, such as another nonprofit organization called Fortitude, designed to help those looking for a second chance at life to have just that, through CrossFit training and nutritional advice. I want to save more lives the way CrossFit saved mine. With this being said, this weekend, in 2 days, will be the 2-year anniversary of losing my best friend. In 2 days will be our senior prom. If at any point this weekend, and any weekend at that matter, you find yourself in the position where you're behind the wheel, someone else is behind the wheel, you are in a vehicle where someone is behind the wheel and they are anywhere near intoxicated, this is my phone number. And it is not just for the cute boys out there, I'm just saying no. Do not hesitate to call me. I know that my car may cramp your style, but I promise that I will do everything in my power to make sure you arrive where you need to be and you will be there safely. And I hope that you pass that along to everyone else. I want you to have the chance that Ryan never got. Never be ashamed of sharing your story, because I promise it could inspire others. And just like Israel Kamakwikiwole sang almost 30 years ago, I'll see you again someday, Ryan, somewhere over the rainbow. Thank you.
Wow. What a powerful story, Callie. Who knew that one girl could contain so much inspiration, dedication, and grit? Well, on that note, let's move it along to our first awards of the night. To present these awards, we have the biggest Kanye West fan this world has ever seen. He's usually repping Kanye in his Life of Pablo tour, but tonight he represents the Sage Creek Genius Project. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Max Faddock.
Thank you, Bryce. It is my privilege to introduce to you our Genius Project Honorary Award winners. You got to see these students' project at the beginning of our event tonight. Right now, I get to give them a cash award for their hard work. Please join me in celebrating each of these students. Sean Cook, Shauna Davis and Jessica Madrid, Dakota Marshall, Cami Harp and Jeffrey Oriana, and Riley Gill. Thank you.
All right, well, next up, we have a brilliant young mind that's already making strides with technology. Let's give a warm welcome to Ryan Neiroth.
So, the majority of people here are very familiar with School Loop, but for those who aren't, School Loop is a website where teachers post homework assignments and grades in order to keep students up to date. And students are constantly checking it to see this information. So with that in mind, imagine an app that would integrate with School Loop on all platforms, use content present in assignments, class lockers, and other places to identify relevant online resources for reviewing topics you are learning in class, provide quick access to textbook chapter reviews, encourage students to learn and review by providing direct links to these resources, and overall, significantly reduce the amount of confusion that students have when doing homework. Well, keep imagining, because that is an inaccurate and glorified description of my project. Although it perfectly represents what my vision was. The potential for my project is far greater than where I've taken it, and that is partly due to time constraints and partly because the potential is so great. So what I took away from working on this piece of software is that envisioning the potential for an idea can make it so much more fulfilling to execute, even if that potential cannot be reached given limited time and resources. You can still get something done, and it can still be kind of cool. So I'm here today with something that I think is kind of cool. When we were introduced to the Genius Project back in winter 2015, I knew I wanted to create an application. I've had roughly 7 years of computer programming experience, and along the way, I have enjoyed working on various coding projects, including 2 Android apps that are published to the Google Play Store. I also wanted the impact of my project to include students at Sage Creek, or students at any school for that matter. Therefore, I settled on creating an app for School Loop, something that would be relevant and could be used effortlessly by every student here. Beyond that, I still had some decisions to make, like would the software be a phone app, and what would it actually do? A huge development in the decision-making process came with a suggestion by my friend Ethan Nicholson while brainstorming project ideas in Mrs. Albert's English class. His idea was to provide online resources in the app to help students study. And I have to give him credit for giving me motivation for my project. I saw the benefit of providing quick access to online learning resources because it could potentially encourage students to review more than they would have without links displayed right in front of them. This overall idea had a lot of potential, but I knew I had to narrow it down to something doable. Although at this point, I still didn't know what was doable. So after prototyping this School Loop interface for Android, I decided against making a phone app, not wanting to make an Android app, only to be left with the task of learning how to develop for iPhone. Instead, I began developing a Chrome extension. A Chrome extension simply adds to the functionality of websites you visit, so I was able to focus on the nuts and bolts of the application, with students being able to access School Loop the way they are used to. However, this also creates new limitations. A Chrome extension only works with Chrome on desktop computers and not on your smartphone. I also decided to limit the online resources supported to just Khan Academy. I would save time by implementing support for only one website while still making available the huge library of resources covering a variety of topics which Khan Academy provides. Along with these decisions, I settled on a fitting name for my Chrome extension, Academist. I also created this logo, although it is merely a combination of two public domain images. So, by the end of last school year, I had learned the basics of building a Chrome extension and experimented with manipulating data on the School Loop website. And over the summer, I did virtually nothing. So by the time this school year started, I hadn't completed as much as I originally planned due to several obligations that I won't bore you with, but I quickly got to work, and I stand here today with something worthy of showcasing. So without any more delay, here is what Academist is capable of right now. Suppose in School Loop you have a physics assignment to do textbook page 613, numbers 1 through 5. The Academist logo indicates that it found Khan Academy resources, which are linked below. If you are confused on how to do this assignment, you can simply click on the link and watch a Khan Academy video about DC circuits. Academist automatically knows that page 613 in the AP Physics textbook is in the chapter about DC circuits. And in addition to page numbers, Academist uses chapter numbers, as in this example, with section 12.3 in the chemistry textbook, as well as keywords, as in this example, with the physics topic electrostatics. And to figure all this out, Academist tries to guess which textbooks you use based on your classes, which you verify on this settings page. So over the course of this school year, I have put a lot of work into making this all come together. And while I haven't encountered any major obstacles, I have had to push through countless technical issues, as any computer programmer would, all the while challenging myself to advance my knowledge in JavaScript, the language of Chrome extensions. I've written close to 1,000 lines of code to program the logic of Academist. I also wrote a program that would automatically extract information about every topic and video in the Khan Academy library, resulting in a database of thousands of topics that academics can search through. On top of that, I did the tedious work of turning the table of contents of each math and science textbook here at Sage into a spreadsheet so that academics could use the data to determine the corresponding topic for any page number that appears in your assignments. You may be wondering why I bothered with something so tedious, and sometimes I wonder myself. But support for textbooks was an important feature that I thought needed to be in the final product. I had to prioritize certain features over others so that I could invest enough time in the few features that were on the top of the priority list, and textbook support was one of them. I also understood that there were some features I would not be able to make, such as expanding beyond just the assignments list or encompassing more resources besides Khan Academy. Other things that I wanted to do, such as making Academist work with Firefox and Safari, got left behind simply because I spent my time on what I thought were more important features. And I was content with this. The final product didn't need to have everything. And actually, there is no final product. My project is a series of continuous improvements, but rather than set an ambitious, possibly unrealistic goal, I have enjoyed making whatever progress I can without much regard to where I will end. So today I have not my final, but my current and ever-improving product. And it's time I assess its worth. Of course, it is functional, but is it really useful? Well, perhaps not. People may feel that watching a 5 to 10 minute video to review one concept is not super productive. Furthermore, academics will not always find something perfectly relevant to what you are learning in class. Also, Google exists. It's incredibly easy to Google whatever you are learning in class in order to find study resources without the help of a fancy browser extension. Lastly, academics will not work as well for students at other schools who are using different textbooks. Nevertheless, Academist does work, and it is a convenient way to access Khan Academy videos. I said I wanted my product to impact my fellow students, but my current user base is just short of 40. So here's where you come in. I want you to download Academist. All it takes is one click to get it from the Chrome Web Store, and for students here, you can check it out on the computers in the library. I also want your feedback, so there is a link to a feedback form on your School Loop page once you download the Chrome extension. I would love to know if the links are accurate to what you are learning in class or if you actually got value out of a suggested video. Feedback will help as I continue to improve academics and work towards its potential. Thank you.
Great work, Ryan, great work. I don't know about you, but no, I was able to be in a couple of Ryan Nemiroff's classes. Yes, Ryan Nemiroff's classes, they weren't mine. And I think my GPA went up a few points just because of him. He's a smart guy. Now, let's step back from all that technology and see what our next presenter could do with just an open cookbook and an open mind. Everybody, Madison Sereni.
To say the least, my genius project was not a project. It was, however, an experience that is now a memory that I learned a lot from along the way. I know that it is such a huge cliche to say that it's all about the journey, not the destination, but I didn't truly know what that felt like until I walked through this experience because I didn't even have a destination. This project has become a journey that will never end for me, which is not a bad thing, so let me explain. The first 10 months or so of my project, I was stuck in this endless cycle of coming up with an idea, telling people about it, getting excited about it, brainstorming what I could do, and then something would happen. I wouldn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason, and the cycle would start all over again. I ended up presenting a different project for the Genius Project pitch, and then another project for the pouching presentation at the end of the year that I literally stuck with just so I could have something to talk about. The point is, I learned so much during that period of the Genius Project, not only about the idea-making process, but about myself and my true interests. When Miss Alberts first introduced the Genius Project to my class last year, one of the very first things that we did was watch a couple of videos on other people's past projects. After seeing how successful and innovative they all were, I remember immediately feeling like my project had to be huge. I didn't expect to change the world or anything, but I definitely wanted it to be significant. Needless to say, I did not come up with an idea to fit those standards, which is ultimately why I ended up switching from idea to idea over and over and over again. My biggest fear was that I would have to stand up in front of my peers, who I expected would all have such fantastic ideas, knowing that my idea was not nearly as significant or successful, especially knowing that I could have done so much more to make it impactful. I realize now, however, that while all of those ideas didn't work out, they taught me what my passions aren't. The first idea I had was to start a hiking blog on Instagram. I soon realized that I do not like hiking nearly enough to make that idea work. So my next idea was to start a monthly paddleboarding group. And as soon as I discovered how much work and leadership and socializing that was going to take, I got rid of that idea real quick. Looking back, though, I could not be happier that I did not stick with either of those ideas, because I know that my journey would have turned out a lot differently, and I would not have made the same impact that I did. With that said, I never did find my perfect idea, but I decided to stick with the one I knew I would at least enjoy doing. What I came up with was cooking with kindness. The concept was basically the same as Meals on Wheels, so I know that I get a 0 for originality, but the impact was there, and I loved what I was doing. The first job I had was cooking for Stand Up for Kids. This is an organization that provides meals for homeless teenagers in Oceanside. I found out about this opportunity through one of my mom's friends who was cooking for them once a month, and due to the concept of my project, I thought it would be perfect to give her a break and cook for them myself. I ended up cooking for them twice. The first time I made sloppy joes, which never disappoints, and the second time homemade macaroni and cheese. From planning to shopping to cooking and delivering, I loved the entire experience. Just to tell you a little bit more about the organization itself, it's all volunteer-based. So if nobody signs up to make these kids dinner, they simply don't get fed. One of the requirements for cooking for them
was that we had to bring in pantry items as well to get them through the weekends because the shelter was only open for dinner Monday through Friday. So this is what our setup looked like when we got there. We had the main meal, we had to bring in a fruit and a vegetable, a dessert, a side item. They told us to bring in enough food to feed 25 people because that was approximately how many kids were coming in each night for dinner. So after Stand Up for Kids, I was looking for people in my own neighborhood that I could cook for, looking to continue my journey a little bit closer to home. The first person I found to cook for is a woman that lives down my street. Her husband recently had a stroke, and she was having a difficult time dealing with that by herself, let alone having to hassle with cooking. So for her, I made one of my mom's recipes, chicken enchiladas. The next person I found to cook for was my next door neighbor. She had recently had surgery on her throat. She was in one of those neck braces and highly medicated, so she was having issues getting around the kitchen to make dinner for her family. I ended up cooking for her twice while she was in recovery. The first time lentil soup and then chicken and rice. After those few cooking experiences, seeing how I was impacting these families and people in need, I soon realized that I had a much bigger passion than just cooking. I wanted to get more involved in helping and serving in my community, so I decided to sign up to volunteer for the city of Carlsbad, and I also got involved with Habitat for Humanity, which was by far one of the best experiences of my life. I highly recommend it. So that's how it happened. That is how my project turned into a lifelong journey. And while the impact of my actual project was small, the size of the impact doesn't matter. The passion and the learning experience are the most important aspects of any idea. Quite possibly the most important lesson that I learned amidst this project is that people aren't born with passions. New experiences broaden our knowledge and our interests. With that said, there will of course always be challenges, but I encourage all of you, do not be discouraged when your ideas fail, or even when your idea is the failure. Make the absolute most of every experience. Focus on what you learned and how you grew, and identify what your passion isn't. Thank you.
Well, Madison, you're right. It is all about the journey, and your journey was a great one. Next up, we have a girl that took a step back, going into her past to help educate students on how to handle themselves during challenging times. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Miss Juliet Evans.
So, I guess this whole thing kind of started a long time ago. Not exactly when Miss Alberts first pitched us the initial idea of the Genius Project, or even later when I began forming thoughts and ideas and plans. Today, we're going to be taking it back to about 7th grade, when I attended Aviara Oaks Middle School and hated just about every last second of it. So, before I start, I want you all to visualize it with me. I'm about 4'7". I have these black rubber bands in my braces that make it look like I have flies in my mouth. I wasn't allowed to wear eyeliner, and between the fallout from my black eyeshadow and my aggressively vengeful acne, my face looked like a connect the dot game at all times. And naturally, when you're a fledgling pubescent goth wannabe, you tend to gravitate towards other fledgling pubescent goth wannabes. So, there's me, and my group of angry, emo 13-year-olds, with all of this newfound stress and energy and emotions happening inside of us, and absolutely nowhere to put it. I mean, nobody takes me seriously, and all the adults and authority figures around me just want me to suppress all the newfound feelings that I'm having. So, during the collective sigh that everybody, including myself, participated in when I heard that I would have to complete the Genius Project to graduate senior year, I was getting flung 4 years back into the past towards my 13-year-old self, and the first scraps of an idea were forming. I knew I wanted to film something, as I've always been passionate about theater and art and writing, and that combining the three would be a rewarding challenge for me. I wanted to write, produce, and direct a film about kids. My initial concept was to show the way that different parenting styles and authority figures affect a child's growth and happiness, all without ever having a single adult in the film. It would consist of about 5 to 6 characters, all of them students, spanning from a Friday night to a Monday morning, addressing relevant struggles and fears, and you would see the way that each child was raised and influenced by the way that they interacted with one another. And I thought this was a great idea. It still is, I believe, but I'm not the right person to write it. Because after my first draft failed, I rewrote it. And then I rewrote it again. And about halfway through my third draft, I realized that every single character was me. And that's not a good thing. I mean, when you look like that, obviously, it's not a good thing. But it's not a good thing because the whole purpose of my project was to show the diversity in people. And all I was doing was writing my own experience into half a dozen different, distinct characters. And as you can imagine, a writer's block this bad can be pretty discouraging. Full disclosure, this is where I lost all of my motivation for my project, and I put it on the back burner for a while. About 5 months to be exact, where I didn't touch the Genius Project with a 10-foot pole. And then it was August, and senior year was right around the corner, and I had nothing. And then I saw this film on YouTube, Dirty Girls. It's about 20 minutes long, and it was actually made in 1996 by another high school senior at the time. It focused and explored the lives of a group of 8th grade girls who refused hygiene as a way to cope and a type of rebellion. And although I was definitely attempting a different kind of rebellion during my middle school years, it was so genuine, and I loved it. And it reminded me so much of the initial passion that I had for my project and that of my failed attempts. So this is where I shift my focus from making a short film to making a documentary. After all, who better to talk about the experiences of middle school kids than middle school kids themselves? My new goal was to capture this precious transitioning state and delve into the emotions and viewpoints of kids at this age. And I couldn't believe that I hadn't just thought of asking them outright in the first place. So I set it up. After a few meetings with Principal Brian Brockett of Aviara Oaks, I had a golden ticket back into my former middle school, and I had arranged for a set of interviews with the advanced theater kids there. I went in on a Saturday afternoon with my dad's camera and recorded roughly between 1 and 2 hours of footage. My questions focused on the ideas of self-esteem, internal and external pressures and conflicts, and creative outlets, and how they help to channel everything that they're feeling in a positive way. Not only did I learn a lot about the struggles that kids these days are facing that I didn't really have to deal with back then, ranging from a growing internet presence to the pressure to grow up and mature faster. But I also saw the overwhelming passion that these kids have for theater, for sports and arts, and for expression. My documentary, 1317, 13 for the age of most students that I interviewed and 17 for the current year and my current age. It's currently in the final stages of approval, and it will be available for everyone to see on YouTube. It's just Juliet Evans. I don't really use YouTube all that much, so that's the name. And I hope that watching it doesn't feel like looking at a computer screen, but into a mirror. Every one of us in this room used to be one of these kids, and we really can't afford to forget what it's like to be one. As I've gone through my senior year, I've just been hyper aware of this idea that I'm gonna be an adult. Like, my 18th birthday is next month. I'm not going to be a kid anymore. I'm not going to be experimenting or figuring things out for the first time like I did when I was 12. I'm going to college. And everybody around me that I've grown up with is going to college. And we're going to be getting married and having kids of our own. And as parents-to-be, we can't just cast aside our youth struggles as ignorance or flair or drama or angst. Even at such a young age, the way that their problems are received really does shape their development. And we need to be offering these creative outlets for them instead of just labeling everything as temporary. Even if it is just temporary, right now it's reality. In this moment. And although, 5 minutes of their thoughts are now immortalized in some amateur student documentary, the ability to pause, rewind, and fast forward, which is all I wanted to do when I was that age, that's not available to them. We need to be there for our kids, our little sisters and our little brothers, and as much as it scares me to think about it, our daughters and our sons, and embrace them and everything they have to learn and think and feel and teach us all as they take these tentative steps towards their futures. Thank you.
Very nice, Juliet. Now, Juliet's one of those people that I think could really change the world. And changing the world may sound like a difficult feat, but I don't think our next presenter was ever told that. She's not afraid of a lot, and she perfectly embodies this idea of the Genius Project. Now, I can talk her up as much as I want, but it's never going to give you the experience of meeting her. Everybody, Heather Felman.
Society always focuses on the effects a sports team has on a city or what a championship means to a program. But nobody ever stops to consider what sports actually mean to the people playing them. As an athlete and someone who is passionate about sports, this is alarming because I recognize firsthand just how large of an impact goes unnoticed. For the past 15 years, I have participated in various sports, including 5 in high school. Participation in sports has changed my life for the better in numerous ways and has exposed me to so many skills that are applicable far beyond simply the field or the court, including the value of working hard, mental toughness, and understanding what it is to play a role in something bigger than myself. So the way I decided to showcase my passion and give back to my community was by hosting a 4-day sports camp. This camp, known as Universal Play, was hosted here at Sage Creek High School and designed for children ages 5 to 10. It was coached by student-athlete volunteers whose purpose was to not only help teach the sports, but also to serve as role models for the younger campers. Now, I'd helped coach other sports camps previously over my high school summers, but I was surprised to find how much planning and preparation went into hosting something that seemed so straightforward, even if it meant starting it from the ground up. However, the meticulous planning and preparation, though I admit daunting at first, did not bother me because I was passionate about what I was doing. But through the Genius Project, I realized my passion is not limited to witnessing the benefits that sports can bring solely for myself, but encompasses impacting my community by helping bring those benefits and opportunities to others. Before the camp started, I had a mother email and later approach me, and she confessed concern over her son's timid nature and separation anxiety. By the end of the camp, that same mother approached me. But this time, it was to share how positive her family's experience had been and how attending and participating in Universal Play had ignited a significant sports interest in her son. She even shared that her son, Jack, taught her how to correctly shoot a basketball. And when she told me this, I was ecstatic. For me, it was amazing that Universal Play did that. The whole goal was to help get kids excited and passionate about sports. And let me tell you, we scored. Universal Play and coaching sports has been a large part of my life and something that has granted me extensive benefits. Through this activity, I've been able to help children grow and transform their lives. And through the Genius Project, I realized regularly witnessing this transformation creates unmatched feelings for me. Now, before I get to my big takeaway, or my light bulb moment, if you could call it that, I'd like to share an embarrassing story. At Disneyland in California, there's a ride known as Splash Mountain. This roller coaster, for lack of a better classification, is widely loved by many and at its climax contains a 52-foot plunge. I, however, am not one of those individuals who holds a deep love for the thrill of being launched down a far too steep drop at 40 miles an hour. No, siree, that is not me at all. That being said, I recently went to Disneyland on my 18th birthday with a group of my closest friends. And naturally, the first ride they all wanted to ride, you guessed it, Splash Mountain. So attempting to hide the panic attack I was feeling inside, I responded with, nah, it's okay. You guys go ahead. I'm just gonna wait here. No, in fact, I would hate for your stuff to get wet while you ride. Let me hold that for you. I'll take one for the team. It was at this glorious moment, my dearest little sister decided to blurt out, oh yeah, Heather doesn't like roller coasters. Immediately, all my friends responded with, oh my, you have to go, we're making you. And so after being badgered for several minutes, I gracefully, emphasis on the word gracefully there, consented to go on the ride. While standing in line, my hands are shaking, I'm breaking into a cold sweat, I can't control my breathing, I am totally freaking out. But then, my friends turned to me, put a hand on my shoulder, and just keep repeating, you got this. Now at this point, they start trying to get me excited. So they're drawing attention to themselves, cheering me on, attempting to put into perspective how short the drop lasts, along with all the other things your best friends do when they're trying to get you to do something they know you're afraid to do. Eventually, I get on the ride, and as we're chugging up to the final drop and I am fighting the urge to jump off the ride completely, I am just screaming, stop the ride! I want off! Oh my, this is it! So with the final chug and my adrenaline through the roof, down we went. But before I knew it, it was all over. I got off the ride, my friends are hugging me, cheering for me, and I cannot believe the battle with myself that I have just won. But how does me, finally being able to muster up the courage to jump on a ride loved by 4-year-olds everywhere, connect to the Genius Project? Vulnerability. The story I just told you is an example of me being vulnerable. But when I use that word, more often than not, negative connotations come to mind. We tie vulnerability to fear, embarrassment, pain, and other things that we do not want to confront, just as we do not want to confront vulnerability. And in our defense, I would argue that being vulnerable is one of the hardest things that we have to do. At its heart, it's scary. Being vulnerable means being exposed at risk of judgment, abuse, and hostility. But what many fail to realize, and what took me a 2-year project to realize, is vulnerability is great. It really is. Now, many of you are probably thinking, this kid, she just said vulnerability is terrible. Well, in its initial stages it is. But if one can muster up the courage to get through those first stages, you find vulnerability at the heart of creativity, self-growth, relief, friendship, and so many other positive emotions that propel life forward. Throughout the Genius Project, the thing that surprised me the most was how willing people were to help. People I'd never even met before were offering support through donations of supplies, suggestions on how to improve my project, and cooperation to help ensure things could move forward smoothly. My mentor and the volunteers who coached were phenomenal. They arrived before the campers and stayed after them every day. But most importantly, they brought unmatched enthusiasm and energy that was contagious to everyone involved. It was this combination that led to Universal Play being as successful as it was. And what I realized after it was all over was that everything happened because I was vulnerable. People wanted to help me because they saw how deeply I valued sports and how much effort I put into the camp because I wore those emotions on my sleeve. The Genius Project forced me to be vulnerable and find the courage to showcase my passions. And because of this, others around me found the courage to help me accomplish my goals. So ultimately, what I want you to remember is this. Sharing your passions can be risky. You put what you love on the line and trust that others will not tear you down. But I promise you, if you can find the courage to be vulnerable, and showcase your passion in a manner for everyone to see. The people who are worth being a part of your journey will find the courage to help you spread and strengthen your passions. And the world will be a better place because of it. So the next time you're confronted with an opportunity to be vulnerable, say game on.
Wow, my experience of this whole camp has been phenomenal. The coolest part is she's energetic, she's organized, she's personable, the kids have loved the camp. She has had wonderful support as far as volunteers being here every day with extreme eagerness to assist, to help others.
I really enjoy the camp. I'm really glad that we came out and tried it out. The kids have been active. The coaches have been really awesome with the kids. They're interactive. They can really speak to them.
I really enjoy working with kids and to see them like having so much fun playing sports and being outside with others campus makes me really happy.
Oh, this camp was great for the kids. Really let them get their energy out, get a dose of what it's like to play a sport in a big arena like this. My favorite part was seeing all the little kids smile on their face. They love it when they're having fun and they see other older kids having fun. It's just a great experience to see that.
Thank you.
That was great, Heather. That was great. Now, if you didn't catch it, Bryce and I were actually in that video and were able to help with Heather's Genius Project, and it really was quite memorable.
So, what we got next for you tonight will also be quite memorable. This is the time all you guys need to pull out your cell phones, because we will be voting on your favorite presenter tonight.
We know you got your cell phones. Take them out.
So go to those messages and text the number 37607. That's 37607. If you text the words Sage Creek Gen 387, all lowercase. Once again, that's Sage Creek Gen 387, all lowercase.
Once you text that number and you text that, you'll get a text back. And once you get that text back, you are able to vote. And voting is up here. All you have to do is send the letter that's next to your favorite speaker. And again, we'll go over this. You need to text the number 37607, text Sage Creek Gen 387, and once you get that text message back, you're able to vote, and your votes will go right in, and we'll get the answers to you shortly after this.
Just send the letter. Just the letter. No names needed. Just the letter.
I know all the young kids out there are probably already done, but let's get a word from all the old folks out there. Are you guys getting it done? I don't know, my dad's out there. He's got his glasses on. I see him already.
All right, it looks like you guys are about wrapping this up. Anybody need more time?
Anyone? Yes, I knew it.
We will give you more time.
Okay, get out of the way. Take it out of the way. Just the letter. All you need is the letter. Again, you should get a text back after you send Sage Creek Gen 387, and then once that text comes back, you'll be able to vote. Oh man.
I'm not a technological guy,
but I think voting is over.
Well, okay, so now that that's over, let's move on to the moment you have all been waiting for.
All been waiting for.
The opportunity raffle drawing. Woo!
Let's bring out the raffles. There you go.
Okay.
Now the first award, the first drawing is going to be a $25 Tommy Hilfiger gift card and a $5 Jose's gift card. So take it out.
So let's pick one in here. We have 885084. That is 885084. The name is on the back. That's Julie Rossi.
Woo, Rossi.
Where are you at, Julie? Can you raise your hand? Oh, we see you right there.
There you go. Right in the middle. Oh, right. And now, congratulations, Ms. Rossi. Now our next drawing is again a $25 Tommy Hilfiger gift card and a $5 Jose's gift card.
We have Yaritza Gonzalez. Woo!
Over there. Woo! Congratulations. And next, we have for our third drawing, we have a $25 Starbucks gift card and a $5 Jose's gift card again.
I can pull those two. We have Mary Waits. Woo!
Back. The pink. Congratulations. Now for our fourth drawing, we have 2 bags of Starbucks coffee and a $5 Jose gift card again. The name, Bryce?
And we have Nolan Mejia. Woo!
Congratulations. Now, for our fifth and final drawing, we have 2 one-hour stand-up paddleboard rentals. Love those.
And the winner is Susie O'Neill. Woo!
The real winner there. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you all for participating, and congratulations to the winners. So next up, we have our second award presentation of the night. And to announce these awards, we have my good friend, Cassandra Longoria.
The last honorary awards go to Bryce Busher, Derek Noble, Cameron Yenchi, Natalie Goins, Kylie Young, Anna Perhatch, and last but certainly not least, Jacob Ewell.
Give him a hand.
Looks like I didn't get a prize.
Congratulations, everybody. Oh, there we go. There's Bryce.
Oh, here it is.
Congratulations there, Bryce.
Thank you, Drake.
Nice.
Thank you.
Now,
Greatly appreciate it.
The awards aren't over yet, because you guys just voted, right?
They did vote. I voted. Did you vote?
I didn't vote. Oh, no.
You didn't vote?
Oh, voting was over.
Well, you guys all voted, and that's all that matters. So let's bring out all our contestants.
Bring out the speaker.
Let's Let's give it up!
They did great. They all performed well tonight.
Brad Nelson, where are you at?
There you go.
Thank you.
And our winners should be here shortly, right?
So before we announce the winners, we actually have to make a special announcement tonight. We would like to call up the two lovely ladies that put all this together, Miss Corey Myers and Miss Shannon Alberts. May you please come up.
They deserve this.
Please come up to the stage.
Oh, man.
These are your two masterminds behind everything you've seen tonight.
And now, announcing our winners tonight will be Bryce Busher, our winner. The vote's in.
And the winner is Callie Ball!
I just wanted to say that I have been writing this thing since junior year before we even knew about it. And all I wish is that Ryan could be here right now to see me. So thank you, everybody.
Let's give another hand to Callie Ball. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all the presenters tonight. Now, as they exit stage right, we have a few last words to wrap it all up tonight.
You know, our whole world is connected. Every single person on this planet is connected to the next in some way, shape, or form. Each speaker you heard tonight touched on some aspect of a life, connecting what we do here in the classroom to the vast world outside these doors.
We've all had ties to something or someone in some way or another. We've seen in many cases this project bring people together and make bonds that are already there stronger. For example, our English department, whether they like to admit it or not, they did get tighter and stronger together. And when we are connected, we grow. And we spread our ideas. And that's how we change the world.
Together. Thank you very much and have a good night.
We love you out there. Wait, please have one more Florence.
All right, Cameron Yenchi is going to go ahead and close us out with his 3D printed guitar.